Hello, can everyone hear me and see me? Welcome to Tech Thursday. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear and see me, which would be a great start, I think. Hey, okay, thanks, Catherine. Everyone can hear and see me loud and clear. Okay, that's great. So how you all doing? Good, lockdown, more of this. So hello to Catherine. So we have about 14 people, 15 people live now. So Catherine, Joe, Liam, James, Eric, Orla, Alex, Aidan, Ava, Frank, Kieran Holden, Catherine Manning, Lloyd, Car, Adele, and Carolina. Thank you all for coming along. We'll begin in just a few seconds. We'll just wait as more people are joining. We have 30, I think it's 31 registered in total. So we'll just hold off for 1 or 2 minutes and we'll start from there. Hey, Alex, how you doing, sir? Been a while. So, how is everybody doing in these strange time? Yes, Catherine, I have recovered from UXDX, doing fine. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait for next year. We might even talk a little bit about that in the talk today, so hang around for that. 16 live. Okay, cool. I think we may need to move on. So just give me 1 second and I shall share my slides. Cool. So I presume you can all see the slides now and just see me in the bottom corner left. Just give me a thumbs up if that's all good. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. That's brilliant. Okay, so welcome to Tech Thursday. This is the first Tech Thursday of 3, the trilogy. Strategy, where to play and how to win. That's what we'll talk about today. So let's get rolling on it. If we can get the screen to work. Okay, great. So today is about strategy, where to play, how to win. The second session will be innovation, discover and reduce risk, what we can do with regards to innovation. And then digital, we're going to leverage your digital transformation. So 3 different days. Today starting with strategy. It should be a little bit of fun. Today we don't have a guest speaker, so it'll just be me lecturing. So I'm going to keep this a little bit short today, which suits the strategy kind of, I suppose, the process that we're going to talk about today. But that just gives you an overview of what's going to be happening. So again, with strategy, innovation, and digital, what we're trying to do is just give you an overarching view of these things. We can't solve your strategy or innovation or your digital transformation in one session, and certainly not over a webinar, but at least hopefully this will be the start for you guys to give you the tools and give you the opportunities to look at these areas, which are really, really important in this COVID times. So, bit of housekeeping first. So questions, you can ask them in the chat and I'll try and answer them. So if you want to ask the questions as we're rolling through the presentation, I'll try and answer them. Or you can keep them till the end, whatever suits you. Come join me. Scary stuff. Come online for a video chat, for a question or any other insights you wish to share. Just put in the text join me in the chat area and we can speak side by side. And that should be a little bit of fun. So if someone wants to do that, give it a go. It should be a bit of fun. It'll try and humanize it a little bit. And then stick around. So at the end of the event, I'll share some of the tools you can use. Plus, we'll provide you with a link to arrange a one-to-one Ask Me Anything and book a 30-minute free chat available today, or not today, tomorrow, Friday, and next Thursday. So that might be a great opportunity for you guys. If you have any questions afterwards and you want to do it in a one-to-one session, you can do that, and we can do it over a Google Hangout. So I'll provide the link for that. And it'll just book you in at whatever time you want. So hang around for that. So again, I'm aiming for 30 to 40 minutes max for the simple reason that we're all zoomed out of it. I haven't done many Tech Thursdays this year, just one. This is the second one. Reason being that there's just so many bloody Zoom calls that we're doing during the day, and it's very difficult to compete with the fact that everyone just wants to turn off after 6. So thanks again for coming along. And so welcome. So to give you, I suppose, a bit of background on our own company here, we help organizations test business ideas for new products and services, and we act as a catalyst for teams to align faster for new projects using a kind of a strategic design approach. and we combine business design principles and outcome-based prototyping to rapidly test ideas. So the whole idea is you're not going to build something you don't want, or you're going to add to your portfolio with something that people just don't want. And we deliver this through actionable workshops and design sprints, and we don't really get involved in theatre, so kind of weigh out aspirational things. We work on clearly defined problems that people have, and that's what we execute upon. So just going back to, we were talking earlier on there about UXDX. So in terms of some of the companies we worked with recently, UXDX went completely online for this year. That was an event that they used to have, or will continue to have, as a kind of a physical event in the RDS, if you remember those. So we worked with UXDX. They were working out what kind of things they wanted to present online, how they were going to do it, what people would be, what desirability people had for those different things, and then could they fit that in with their feasibility and viability. So we worked with UXDX in terms of creating the interface for that, but more so what we were really doing was prototyping that interface, and what we were doing was connecting with some of the existing customers and non-customers or participants of UXDX and finding out what they liked, what they didn't like with regards to this new interface for a completely online event, which was actually last week, if any of you guys were there for that. So with that, we're actually doing user testing with some of their existing participants of UXDX, and that ranged from a lot of people in Ireland, and then we also tested people from New York to Tokyo. So that was a really, really insightful piece of information that we put together, and we were delighted to work with UXDX, and hopefully we'll be working with them again. We're also working with Orange Bear, who's a company who work in fintech, and we worked with them to create solutions for Bank of Ireland and Eric's Insurance. Initially, they came to us, they had an idea, let's say, of a product feature that they think would work in terms of ways of new acquisition for customers in insurance, and also the retention of existing insurance customers. And obviously, we work with them on the prototype in terms of a sprint, and we were involved as well in terms of the build of, let's say, for the Bank of Ireland insurance purchasing availability that exists on the Bank of Ireland site at the moment. We also worked with TG Car. So TG Car came to us on a strategic quest, really. What TG Car were trying to decide on was whether they'd move their website from what was initially just a news site, just a general site about TG Car, and moving it into a completely, fundamentally a pivot where they changed from being just a website to being completely video on demand service. And we worked with them on that, and the site that you see today came from that strategic move that we helped them with its sprint. And then we worked with Nearfarm just recently as well, just on the prototyping end. And Nearfarm were developing a new COVID tracing app for Scotland, so we helped them out with that as well. So that's just a general overview of some of the things we've been working on this year and last year. So I suppose just to give you an idea of our framework of how we work with these four kind of pillars, and these are some of the kind of, I suppose, the processes that we use. And we pretty much stick to the same process, whether it's in workshops or from further development, whether it's for 1 hour or it's actually for 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 days. It doesn't matter. It stays the same. We collect information, we choose what to focus on, we create multiple solutions, and we commit with actionable takeaways. So that's the framework. And in each one of those pillars within the framework, we use exercises when we work with the client teams. And these are the exercises that you can see there on the yellow stickies. So expert interviews, business model canvas, etc. So you may be aware of some of these exercises. Again, you can look up these exercises later on, and you can see how you could utilize them yourself. A reminder as well, this is being recorded, so that the link that you have right now will be available immediately after the session, so you can go back and watch this at any time. So don't get too worried about taking notes, just sit back and relax and have some questions. And the reason why we work with this framework, I suppose, is that if you look at this kind of diagram, excitement, as you can see on the y-axis, and time, and that's basically what happens. So everyone starts out pumped with the project, gets really excited, and as time goes on, things begin to slow down. And that's why we utilize our workshops that way, is to be in a position where we can really take advantage of that excitement time and get as much done as possible. So who's this for today? So corporate innovators, incumbents, trying to challenge the status quo and building new ventures within the constraints of a large organization. I believe that that's possibly the biggest opportunity that exists out there. And then in terms of designers, if you want to execute more upstream in the organization and design for viability, in other words, for the value of the company, gain respect in that C-suite, and move beyond some of the desirability metrics. So not necessarily move beyond, but actually be inclusive of viability and desirability. And any kind of UX designer out there will know exactly what I mean about that. Startups and digital first, you're working on the right thing. Have you tested the fundamentals of your business model? So better invest resources of finances for the company, for the investors, and for the team, critical points of your organization. And solo entrepreneurs, some of you guys may have a business idea out there and you'd like to side hustle without much cost and development and gain some of that additional business acumen. Hopefully I can give you some of that today. And just generally in Irish companies, or companies anywhere at all, COVID-19 has accelerated what could be, I suppose, a fundamental change in your business model. So I think that's critical at the moment, and everyone now with a corporate innovator and incumbent who actually knows exactly what I'm talking about. Every owner and executive should know this by now, and some are actually paralyzed by it, and they don't know what is the catalyst to get it started. And I think strategy is a really, really great way to start. So the ratio of assumptions that we have compared to knowledge that we have around this COVID-19 is exactly as you imagine it. We've got a lot of assumptions and we've got very little proof. So what we're going to try and do is unpack that opportunity over the three sessions, starting with strategy today. So this is the What the Fuck is Strategy by Vince Law, or WTF, which I should have said. But anyway, it's based around the fact that you've all got our missions and visions, what we aspire to do. Then we got our strategy sitting in the middle, possibly one of the most important ones. Then you got your roadmap and your execution. These are the things that you're doing. And so just to briefly go over each one of these. So your mission, I suppose, is that statement that describes the problem that you're setting out to solve, typically including who you're solving it for. So the mission is about where you're going. And then we move into the vision, the idealized solution that addresses the problem that you've accumulated in your mission. So basically, the mission is where you're going, and the vision is where you see the customer or yourselves being in terms of that perfect place and the solution that you have created. The strategy, where we're going to be focusing on today, is the decisions informed by market forces and data. So that's what we're going to look at today. Caveated, obviously, of course, by your assumptions that you commit ahead of development. So we have a lot of assumptions at the moment, and we need to address those assumptions before you can move on with what is your roadmap. And I'd like to kind of, in that area, that's where I think we're going to kind of talk about innovation, which is the second talk. So to step towards your product vision, which include the innovations that test your assumptions from the strategy. So, and as you build your roadmap, it should become defunct as you publish it, because you are test, learn, test, and learn. And execution, to ship, you want to learn when you ship, you want to iterate and reflect on all of the above. That's what happens when you execute. And ideas, which start up around your mission and vision as you work down to your strategy, are only a multiplier of execution. So it's really the execution where the success will be found or not. And what we're going to try and do is mitigate some of that risk along the way by focusing on the strategy and your roadmap. So in other words, your strategy and your innovations and that kind of digital transformation, which we'll get to later on. So that's basically it in a nutshell to start. So I just taken the idea of The Godfather. We all know The Godfather. Most of us have seen the movie. So strategy, where to play and how to win. Offers you can't refuse. So Don Corleone, he started out, decided to play in crime, and he was going to win through brute force, and that was the area that he worked in. Now, I think we're going to be approaching it in a more of a Julie Andrews way, rather than a kind of a Godfather kind of way. Innovation, that part two of The Godfather, crossed into new markets. In other words, I think they got into all sorts of different kinds of drugs, and dealing with the inflection points that happened. And what I mean by inflection points is the points. Well, I'm going to really look at inflection points just further on, but basically inflection points is a change that happened. A lot of people think that the change that happened was never seen, or you couldn't foresee it. But I mean, like in terms of The Godfather, the family must have been aware that, you know, someone could die. The father died. The son, Sonny, he was supposed to take over, he died. They should have been aware of those facts. They never really dealt with them, just dealt with them as they happened. And that can be, cause awful stress and awful pain. And in terms of our company, that's actually huge. And COVID-19 is one of those inflection points. And to suggest that nobody could see this coming is a lie. We could see this coming. It's been very obvious that something like this could happen. And it could happen and will happen again. So it's all about understanding those inflection points, trying to see around the corners and work out where these inflection points are and how you can mitigate that risk. So we're going to look a little bit about that at that as well today, but mainly that's going to be about the innovation part. Sorry, is going to be mainly looking at how we can test these inflection points that we see coming and how we can find new opportunities. And the last part is that digital transformation. So in The Godfather Part 3, he kept going back to his old ways. He was trying to legitimize the business, but he just couldn't help himself. So if you keep looking into the past, it's going to destroy your organization. You need to start looking at the future and what's out there beyond where the existing market is and the opportunities that you could find there. And that's what we'll be looking at in Part 3. And like I was saying today, we're going to look at strategy, where to play and how to win. So why now? Huge opportunity. It's COVID-19, but there is huge opportunity. So just earlier I was speaking about the inflection point. So an inflection point is a 10x change that is going to cause and force a change in your operations and your existing assumptions of your company. And everybody knows exactly that at the moment. And because of that line's blur between strategy and innovation, the agile steps that innovation is those agile steps that take you on that strategy journey. So we're in a situation now where we have to innovate more, and I think that our innovations should be affecting our understanding of our strategy as well. And what we're going to try and do today is look at how we can mitigate risk. And we're going to look at mitigating risk throughout the 3 sessions. So what other things could be coming down the line? And we have to look out for those things. So competitive moats are under attack. So all the old incumbent companies know exactly what this is. Change is coming. Where you thought you had a moat that was protecting your company may not be there anymore. And how do you work with that? As an example of something that did happen already, Fujifilm, if you remember about whatever it was, I suppose 18 years ago, digital cameras, digital photographs came into being. And the industry boundaries were breaking down quickly because lots of other companies were getting into photographs in the digital context, and Fujifilm needed to change. And these guys did look around the corner. They did look out to the extremities, and they shifted their strategy to compete in the lucrative high-tech medical imaging industry. So they basically disrupted themselves. And that's what a lot of us have to do now. And it's so important. If you look at companies like Kodak, they really didn't do that. They weren't innovating constantly. They weren't looking at new areas to trade in, I suppose you could say. And they've suffered very badly. Currently, actually, in the last, I think it was about a month ago, Kodak came out and said that they were moving into, I think it was kind of not transportation, but logistics of pharmaceutical. And their stock prices, if you remember, they went up very fast and then they went down very, very fast. So they're in the infancy of their strategic change, and it will be very interesting to see where they'll go and if they will survive. Have they left it too late? Have you left it too late? These are the questions that needs to be asked. And industry and arenas. So industry and arenas have changed or are not changed, or how you define where you compete has changed. So competition has to be seen now in the broader context of arenas rather than industry competitors. So we have to look beyond the idea of that I'm competing in, if Fujifilm, I'm competing in just, print and photographs. You go beyond that. And just as an example of that is Netflix. So when Netflix are saying who they're competing against, they don't say that they're competing against Apple or they're competing against Amazon or Disney. They say that they're competing for disposable time. And that completely changes the context of how they see their company. Because if you think about it, things may change for Netflix in terms of everyone else is catching up. We'll see Hulu. We have all other companies that are making this kind of a bit of a red ocean. But if Netflix keep to their arena of competing for disposable time, it opens them up to absolutely new areas. So where Netflix will go next, because it's getting a bit of a red ocean, which we'll talk about later on, in terms of a lot of competition, where will they go next? And it's a really interesting question. It could actually be into what else do we do with our disposable time? We look at education and doing talks like this. Maybe they'll move into that area. So just very, very interesting to see where Netflix will go. And they are a bit of a leader in that area. And I imagine in the next year, they will come out with something new on their system, I suppose. So strategy and innovation are getting closer together than ever before, because competitive advantage is actually getting shorter. So this is where your strategy becomes really, really important. And that's just a plug, actually. If you go to our own website there, you see the Prophecy of Action for the Southeast. We wrote something about just this whole slide and related it to the Southeast in Ireland. So if you want to check that out, you can have a look at it later on. So why are we doing this? It's discovery-driven planning. So discovery-driven planning is a term that I took from a lady called Rita McGrath, who I'm reading a lot of lately. She has a book called Seen Around Corners. And she talks about that whole area of strategy and how it's interrelated to innovation. And what we're trying to do today is with you can see the light bulb. So whatever your strategy is, your roadmap, etc., your innovations, what's happening really is you can see in the y-axis that the spend, that's on the y-axis, and your research and your testing all the way to your execution, like in your what the fuck is strategy, you can see that that's your progress. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to remove some of the uncertainty and risk through some of these kind of workshops and these things you can do at home that will help your progress. But also, what also happens, I suppose, sorry, with the other arrow, with the red arrow, is that your spending levels go up when you go beyond research and testing and you get to execution. So it's really, really important that as your spend goes up, as you start changing your strategy, perhaps maybe a pivot, or you're just changing your innovation, which we'll talk about next week, there will be a spend involved. And what we're trying to do is to remove some of that uncertainty and risk. And there's a huge amount of help out there on the internet with regards to that. And pretty much everything you're going to see today, you can check out online as well, where they might be able to explain it a little bit better than I am. So Seeing Around Corners, just to reference that, Rita McGrath's book, I'm a complete fanboy at the moment. And then the goal is for your business to be more convex with trial and small error. And this is just physics. You can see the balls there. If you're not testing and trying things where, you know, the ball is not dying when it goes into a hole, you're mitigating risk without doing a huge spend, you're going to get faster and you're going to move ahead of your competition. And like I said, that's just physics. And then your success depends on the risks you take, and your survival depends on the risks that you avoid. So this is not about betting the house. This is about small trials and small error. And hopefully we'll be able to help you with a lot of that as we go through this trilogy of Tech Thursdays. So discovery-driven planning, as we were talking about, I suppose we require a new toolkit of business design to navigate the best strategy. Then we need to test the assumptions. In other words, we're talking about testing those assumptions and implement the innovations necessary for that success. But it must also empower a culture of constant innovation in your company. Probing that will bring forward even more opportunities for your digital transformation. And if you look back to Fujifilm, let's say, they were always involved in heavy innovation. They were always looking around the corners, looking into the future, looking to where the snow is melting at the edges, which we might talk about a little bit later. And that's basically the structure for the 3 talks. So today we're looking at, we require a new toolkit for business design to navigate the best strategy. And then we'll move into testing assumptions of your innovations in session 2. And session 3 is that digital transformation. So again, that's just another kind of overarching view. So where to play and how to win. The 101, I suppose, is what a strategy is and what it isn't. And I've just broken this down into very simple descriptions. And there's a book as well called, you can put it up here, it's called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. I've just taken some of the ideas from that book here and really, really compressed them. So strategy is choosing what to do and what not to do. It's actually a trade-off. And that can be a very difficult thing where you go, well, we're doing all these different things and we're competing with our competitors with all of these different things because they've got all those different things too. And the difficult part is the trade-off where you actually want to have to maybe remove some of those things and move into different areas. So it's about being unique and not being the best. You can still survive not being the best. And then it's a quest for that competitive advantage. That's what this strategy is. But what it's not, I think, is a really good place to start as well. It's not a goal or a vision. It's not that mission or the vision. It's not that at all. It's not projected figures. Sometimes people say, oh, here's our strategy. This year we're making 10x, and next year we're going to be making 20x. It's not that at all. And then it's not a top-down process. And I think that's really, really important. That working on your strategy, you have to bring in all the different parts of your team to work out what the strategy will be. I just found this interesting quote just today on LinkedIn. And it said that a giant company asked me to identify their biggest untracked source of productivity. And they analyzed 400,000 employees, and the result was purpose. So strategy gives your company a purpose. If you can communicate your strategy coherently from top to bottom, everyone knows exactly what they have to do. Problems need to be solved by people who are closest to them, and that's what strategy allows your company staff to be able to do that. So that's a really, really important one. That it's not just in the C-suite. C-suite will decide on the strategy, but you have to get your inputs beyond that C-suite. Otherwise, you will fail. And strategy, so the tools that you can use, and again, these are just some of the tools that you can use, and we're going to be looking at only one of those tools today, because like I said, I want to get you all out of here within about 45 minutes. So the Blue Ocean Strategy, you may have heard of that before from the book by the same name, the Blue Ocean Strategy. That's something that you can use. There's a business model canvas, which you all, a lot of you might be aware of it or have utilized it in some format. There's also the business model framework. That's a really, really good one, and not enough people are using that. The who, the what, the how, and the why, how you actually work and change some of those, in other words, those 4 different components. And if you change 2, you have a pivot, and you can read about that online. And then obviously the Porter's 5 Forces has been around for a long, long time, but it's essential if you're looking at your strategy, where you're going to play and how you're going to win. But today, we're going to be looking at the Blue Ocean Strategy as an example. So I'll give you a little bit of an overarching view, an introduction to that. You can look at the other ones as well. So the advantage of using a design-driven process workshop is to create a strategy with speed and vision, and execution in a challenging time. So these are all very, very visual. And that's the whole idea of it, is using this kind of design perspective to make it visual, to make it apparent, and to make it to be understood, and something you can do quite fast. And that's really, really important. So the Blue Ocean Strategy, who said that competition was healthy? So if you might remember the film Romeo and Juliet, or you may have read the book of the same name, 2 households, both alike in dignity in fair Verona. So if I was to break that down, if you're like your competitors, all you'll end up doing is shooting each other, and it's a bloody, bloody place. And competition is not healthy, is what I'm saying. And we're going to look at how we can do that with your strategy to take away some of that competition. And we're going to be using the Blue Ocean Strategy to do that. Can I just get a thumbs up to make sure that everyone can still hear me and see me? Because I am basically talking to myself at the moment, but we'll change that in a few minutes. So just a thumbs up if you can still all hear and see me. Okay, grand. Okay, that's good. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. So the Blue Ocean Strategy for a new or an existing business, anyone can utilize this. So a red ocean is where you're competing in existing markets. And if we want to create this blue ocean, is to create an uncontested market space. So I suppose to go back a little bit, a red ocean is basically, it's a sea, an ocean where everybody is eating each other and it goes blood red. It's a dangerous place. And the blue ocean is where you want to be calm, tranquil, and you have it all for yourself, basically. So red ocean is competing in existing markets. With blue ocean, you're trying to create an uncontested market space. In red, you're trying to beat the competition, but you're trying to make it irrelevant in the blue. You're trying to exploit existing demand, but what you're trying to do in blue ocean is create and capture new demand. And in the red ocean, you make a value cost trade-off. But what you're trying to do in that blue ocean is break the value cost trade-off. And that's the crux, basically, of the Blue Ocean Strategy. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at that. So, Blue Ocean Strategy, what we're going to do is look at 3 examples of a Blue Ocean Strategy. And hopefully then you'll be able to utilize the Blue Ocean Strategy canvas yourself. You can literally write it on a page, or you can bring your team in together, or you can work with someone on it. but it's a really, really cool tool. So what we're going to look at is Southwest Airlines, American company. They were the pioneers in the low-cost airlines, long before the Ryanairs, etc. Very, very interesting company who actually utilized the Blue Ocean strategy. So what we're going to do is have a look at the Blue Ocean strategy canvas. So we'll just kind of work our way around the canvas and have a look at it. So you can see the X and Y axis again, as we kind of been working on today. You have the high and the low, that's an investment, your Y axis. So your horizontals, what you're investing in, high and low. And then along our X axis, along these points down here, what we have is your competing factors. So your competing factors are things that you invest in that raise your cost structure, not what the customers value. It's very easy to get caught. No, this is what the customers value. You don't need to worry about that yet. What you're looking at here is the competitive factors that you invest in that are costly to you or not, but that's what we need to look at. So if you look at, let's say, the airline industry, what are those competing factors? Well, there's seating class choice, you know, first class, coach, etc. Hub connectivity, the ability to connect between the hubs, going from, if you're going from point A to B, you have to go through the hub in the middle. Lounges, obviously, we all know lounges. They're really important in terms of cost, etc. Meals on planes, whether you know they're low cost, high cost meals, or if there's meals at all. Friendly service, interesting. And then speed, of course, important. And then frequent point-to-point departures. So these are the competitive factors in the airline industry, per se. So what we need to do now is look at where along the x-axis each of these sit and how we can equate these with our competition. So what you guys could do is you can see the blue dot there for Southwest Airlines. You can put your own company in there. Then for the red dot, you can put in your average competitor, or you could stick in several competitors. You can put in as much as you want, really. You can just increase the graph. And then I've put in car transport as well, because car transport is very important. And you need to look at what I consider what is called a substitute. So if you want to get to point A and B, you can look beyond a plane. You can actually hire a car. You can use a car for transport. So you have to remember, what are your substitutes that are competing for your space as well? So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually put them into the canvas. One thing to point out first is that the only kind of different thing on the canvas is the first line here, and that's price. You can see I've just mentioned it here. So that's the price. You can fill that in at the start or at the end. It doesn't really matter, but it's slightly different than the other x-axis competitor factors. So price you just put in first. So what we'll do then is we'll drop in all of our competing factors along that x-axis, as you can see them there. And then we're going to graph, to start with, the average airline. So you can see prices relatively high, seating class choices, they consider that a high investment. Hub connectivity, medium. Lounges, they invest quite a bit into the lounges, which affect their costs. Remember, it's all about the cost. The meals they invest in as well. Friendly service, so yeah, they invest in it. And speed, that's relatively important to them as well. But these are, remember, the cost. These are the cost structures that you invest in. Can't emphasize that enough. And let's look at one of those substitutes. So you could pick out a substitute for yourself. And in this context, we're using the car transport. So you can see we have it's low cost compared to flying on an airline. Seating class really doesn't exist. It's just your chair in the car. Hub connectivity doesn't exist. Lounges, nope. Meals, no. Friendly service, it's just you. Speed, not as fast as a plane, but frequent point-to-point departures. Basically, you can get to anywhere from any point. So that's your substitute. And then if you bring your own company into it, like Southwest did, you can see that they decided to look at where they can show, you can see this visual difference, where they can differentiate. That's the first part. And you can see what they've done here is they've decided to keep the prices low. They removed a lot of the seating class choices. Hub connectivity, they weren't getting involved with that. It was more point to point. The lounges, no thanks. Meals, you can pay for them. Friendly service, they really try to up that. And if you have flown with Southwest Airlines, you will see that is very, very true. And then the speed as well, they decided to up that. And then frequent point-to-point departures. So you can see that a lot of the airlines haven't invested, the average airlines haven't really got into this area. Oops. They haven't got into that area of frequent point-to-point departures. And, companies like Ryanair go into all these smaller airports as well to create lots more of these point-to-point departures. So this is just a very interesting way to graph out where you can see gaps in the market or gaps in the value proposition. And that's what's going to make a huge difference in how you do your strategy. And if you do make a complete change here, that's called a pivot. But it could open up ideas for innovations for you as well. So when you fill in that graph, then what you need to do then is just clearly define what you're going to do next. And that can be very, very easily done with the ERRC grid. Great name. Eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. So eliminate what factors that the industry has long competed in should we eliminate. Reduce, which are the factors we should reduce well below the industry standard. Raise, these are the factors that you should raise well above the industry standards. And create, a very interesting one, which factors should be created that the industry has never offered before. So that's probably one of the most interesting and most important ones. And so taking the example from Southwest Airlines, you can see that they've eliminated the seating class, helped connectivity, they've reduced the lounges and the meals, they've raised the speed and the friendly service, and they have created more and more point-to-point, like Ryanair have done as well. Now, you might say that Ryanair and all these other companies are in this market as well, so you have to remember that your blue ocean doesn't hang around for long. More sharks get into it and it begins to turn red. And you've got to change, you've got to innovate. So that's the whole point of this. It's just with COVID, it just becomes a lot faster. So this is the second example, Circus Olé. So what you can see here in this chart is that we've introduced the eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. So you can add that extra part to your graph, and this helps you to create it with a little bit more vision. So you can see Circus Olé, you probably know about Circus Olé. They were in their competition as such was, Ringling Brothers, like other circuses, Fawcett Circus here in Ireland and things like that. So what the existing circuses were adding in an offering level and in a high cost was things like animal shows and oil concessions, all of that. And then you can see that further to the right, you can see Circus Olé started to create teams for the shows, multiple productions, refined viewing environment, artistic music and dance. So this is what they created. This is their differentiation. So you can see there is a cost in raising these things, but they've actually cut out quite a lot of costs at the other side as well. So what does this do? It focuses you to invest on a few competing factors, not all competing factors. I see a lot of startups and other companies, they want to compete with everything that their competitors are doing. In Fair Verona, it's not good. It's going to lead to bloody waters. Divergent strategy line leads to a unique offer. So you can see that divergent strategy line, that's what you should be aiming at. And then combining low cost and differentiation strategy. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about that now in a second, which will hopefully make it a slightly more clear to you. So if we look at Circus Olé here, you can see cost savings are made by eliminating and reducing those factors that industries alongside you competed on. So you're reducing your cost. That's the gray area there. And the buyer value is lifted by raising and creating elements the industry has never offered. So that's you're creating value there. And in the middle is that value innovation, where you can quite possibly reduce your costs, create more value, charge more for it, and actually do a lot better in terms of your profit and loss that you previously did. So with Circus Olé, they actually increased the ticket price, and they created that new arena, the arenas that we were talking about, where to play and how they're going to win. And they started playing in the arena of a luxurious night out. And if you're doing a luxurious night out, you're going to be spending. So that's the area they got into. Basically created no competition. They created something unique. And alternatives, these are the substitutes, the alternatives that they're hitting on, which are the theatres and other costly nights out of entertainment. So that's how Circus Olé did it. And then the blue ocean strategy for yellowtail wine. quick drink. We all know Yellowtail Wilds in Ireland, well, across the world really, but they're in the supermarket. It's the no-brainer choice really, isn't it, for a bottle of wine? Depending on your taste, I suppose. But Yellowtail is in the supermarkets, and we've all seen it. So they've made phenomenal profit. So as you can see, the premium wines on the Blue Ocean strategy, they put a lot of money into the price is high, above the line marketing is high, aging quality, vineyard prestige, wine complexion, etc. This is the areas where they're really focused on, and their costs are incredibly high. And then if you look at like the budget wines, they're somewhere around, they always kind of middle out on all of these elements that their cost structures. But if you look at what Yellowtail did, was they had their price just somewhere above the budget wines, and then they started increasing their costs in different or decreasing their costs in different areas, like above the line marketing and aging quality and those things. And what they began to look at then was vineyard prestige, reducing that, wine complexity not so important, and wine range again not so important. And what they really created was an area for which they saw a market for when they started to look around the corner. It was easy drinking, ease of selection, fun and adventure. There was a lot of people coming into, because people are becoming slightly more affluent, that people are being introduced to wine, and also the younger generation who are, you know, their palate is changing when they reach 18 or 21 or whatever, and they're looking at different wines to drink, and this is a really easy access for them. Also, you can see that the selections of wine, they actually have only, I think it was 2 they started out with, now about 7, I'd say, but most supermarkets in Ireland you only see 4 or 5. So this is a really, really interesting area, and it's an area in terms of the drinks industry that we may look at in the innovation section of the stage 2 of the Tech Thursday events. So you can see that Yellowtail Wines did incredibly well. I think Yellowtail Wines, they actually have vineyards and have trains that leave their vineyards with all the wine on it. These guys are just doing a phenomenal business. So just to summarize that, never use the competition as a benchmark. It's just not a good way to go. Create a leap of value, but that involves a trade-off. It's where you're going to have to reduce your costs in certain areas and drop things that you think are really important, but they just mightn't be. And you have to pursue that differentiation and lower cost simultaneously. And that's where the sweet spot lies. So just to summarize on the way to summarize strategy, where to play and how to win, the Blue Ocean strategy will help define the specific activities of your organization, what the firm will do, and where and how it will do it to achieve those aspirations. So what I'd suggest you guys do is try and create the Blue Ocean strategy at home with your team to find an opportunity for value innovation. It's so easy to do. Look up the business model framework again, which helps with this whole business model, the strategy of where you're going to play and how you're going to win. There's loads of information out there on that. Check out the treasure trove of books and references from today, which we'll talk about at the end, and I'll give you access to all of those. And there's a serious opportunity cost right now in not exploring your strategy and business models. You need to start looking at innovation being a large part of your company. If you're the CEO or leading the company, you should be spending about 40%, if not 60% of your time on innovation and the strategy model that you are keeping together and making sure everybody understands about it. That is your role. And take the opportunity of a free one-to-one. I'd love to hear your feedback and the progress that you might be making on your Blue Ocean strategy or your business frame model. And again, I'll give you the link at the end for that. And obviously session 2, these are times of change, but your reactions can be small to test your assumptions. So what I'm saying is that when we get into session 2 of this Tech Thursday, you don't have to bet the house when you're changing your strategy. What you need to do is test and find out if it will work. And there's so many tools and so many different ways to do it now that the opportunity is there, and we'll be looking at that in session 2. So no betting the house. You can do this as a side project. So the next Tech Thursday is Innovation, Discover and Reduce Risk. And that's going to be on the 29th of October. I think it's Thursday, the 29th of October. That's 2 weeks from now. So test business assumptions and implement the innovations necessary for success. That's what we'll be doing in session 2. The innovations are they're the agile steps that take you on that long journey. And this is kind of just giving an idea of a map of how we're going to do that. So everyone has the idea, like you build something, you measure it when you get it out there, and then you learn, and then you go back into the cycle. So like build something, we're going to measure it, then we're going to learn. But what I'm going to suggest is that what you need to do is you need to go to the learn and the measure and the build. So you actually start at the other side of the circle, which some people don't do. And the learning stage, which are innovations and the strategy, is do they want it? Do they want it? Should we do it? Can we do it? These 3 questions are based around the viability, the feasibility, and the desirability of your offering. And that's what we're going to be looking at in session 2. And then the measurement, I suppose, that's the qualitative and quantitative. So if you have an idea of who they are, how we should approach them, how we can do it, we can actually do tests to measure that, and in qualitative and quantitative ways. And then if we get to the point where we're kind of happy with some of the results that we got, we can then build interviews. You can just do interviews to test your assumptions. You can use landing pages to test your assumptions, possibly an MVP. But the whole idea is here that we're not betting the house, and we're going to learn about how we can do a better strategy for the company, how we can communicate a better strategy for the company, and of course, and the innovations that are going to take us along that way. So for the next event, we will have an expert guest to chat on reducing risk, increasing innovation, and there is no retreat from digital. And that's really important. And COVID is an opportunity in these times of change to actually look at these things. So in terms of the links, if you want to ask me anything, you can book a free you can book that free 30-minute chat online. And what I will do is I will put that into the chat in a few minutes, but I will email it out to you guys as well. The Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas worksheet, if you want to just create a little Canvas worksheet that you can use yourselves, you can access it through the link that's there. And if you're not on the Tech, if you manage to get to this Tech Thursday without being on the mail list, I would suggest that you use the link there and sign yourself up so you can get the latest information. We send out an email once a week, and we do updates as well on when the next Tech Thursday is and when it'll be on, etc., etc. And then that's it. Thank you. So sharing is caring. If you enjoyed what you got out of today, please do share it on the socials and let people know. So what I'll do now is I will move to the questions, and I will try and move away from this particular slideshow so I can show my face. Okay, cool. So questions, I'll go in and have a look and see what we have in here. Thanks, Catherine, for the spoiler alert about the horse on the bed. Lovely. That's from The Godfather, if anybody's wondering. Great, super interesting, Eric says, but how do you define what new values to create in the current if they currently don't exist? I guess that's part of the test and learn cycle. Yeah, there's a very famous quote from a book called Only the Paranoid Survive, and it was that snow melts at the edges. And I think that's a really interesting term. So if you want to find spring, you got to go out to where the snow melts. So that means that there is some kind of exploration to do, Eric, in terms of where are the changes? What are the things coming down the line? And you have to go slightly outside of the comfort zone of the company. If you're a CEO, it's very difficult because if you go to the extremities of your company and go visit an office or something, they're going to be cleaning it up and making sure everything's perfect for when that CEO arrives. And it's very difficult. They're quite sterile CEOs. That's why you need to bring the whole team in. And that's very important. Another thought that came to me on that was, it was from a quote from William Gibson, the futurist. He writes the books and stuff as well. He said, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So the future is here. The values that you need to create, there is things out there, and it is hard to define, but you have to go look for them. And when you do find them, you can test for them, and you can learn very quickly, and you don't end up breaking the company, I suppose. Brian saying, turning around Stella Artois used to be really shortly expensive. Now you get 20 bottles of Lidl at low cost. Yes, Brian, that is very true. And I think they're not the 33 CLs, I think they're like 30 CLs, so I feel a little cheated when I get them home. Candy said, thanks, John, that was really interesting. Give me a lot of really good takeaways. Love the examples, and as they are not just product but service product, not just product but service products. Absolutely, yeah. That's the thing with the blue ocean strategy. It'll pretty much work for any kind of company and organization. And Lydia said, I love this online now. I love that this is online now, so I can attend from Sligo. Yes, Lydia, it's brilliant, isn't it? Thanks so much. No bother at all. So, is there anyone who'd like to come online and ask a question or have an insight? And it would definitely humanize it a little bit. Attending from Denver. Oh yeah, Eva, how you doing? Attending from Denver. Wow, isn't it amazing? I thought you were in New York, but you're still in Denver. Excellent. Yeah, it's great. What time is it over there? Brilliant. So, anyone like to come online with an insight or ask a question? We can't leave until someone does. Awkward silence. No, any other questions then? Just want to put up on the chat. No? Okay. Well, look, that's where we'll leave it. Thanks, guys, for coming along. I know we're hitting 50 minutes there now. Like I said, if you're on the mail list, you'll hear more about it. I'll just drop into the chat the links. Actually, just drop them in now. 1 second. Oh, he's asking about a clear view of the books. Okay. Good strategy, bad strategy. Really, really good book. I'll put up some of the books here so you can see them. Good strategy, bad strategy. Really, really good. Blue Ocean Strategy. It's pretty good as well, and that's where I got it is an excellent book. You can find the business model canvas in that, and it's pretty much covered anyway in the file that I gave you. Testing business ideas. A lot of my ideas in terms of the innovation will come from this particular book. Sprint, test some ideas before betting the house, and then this is really good for qualitative insights, and that's something we can look at in terms of the tools that you can use and that we use a lot. And didn't mention this book, but it's a really good one. Alchemy, The Surprising Power of Ideas That Don't Make Sense. And I think, Eric, that could be a really interesting area to look at if you're looking at the extremities and a bit of human behavior and stuff as well. Great read. You can do it in about 4 coffees, anything you want. And that's where I got that quote that you heard earlier on, that ideas are only a multiplier of execution. And inspired, I take a little bit from that book as well. Marty Kagan, who was a guest on the UXDX this year as well, which I got a huge amount from. So sign up for UXDX. And I think that's it. There's no other questions coming in. No? Okay, well, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you for coming along. Please do just let people know on social media if you enjoyed it. Just let them know. And we will talk to you all again in 2 weeks' time. But again, don't forget to sign up if you just want to do a quick session. I was interested to see how people are getting on and what they're doing. So good night. Have a great day. Or Eva, good afternoon. See you guys. Bye.